impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org.
Hello, this is Lenny Mann, and for the next hour, I'll be reading from current issues of the Lockport Union-Sun Journal on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. A cyberstalker is sent back to prison. Daniel Richter has already served time for a case involving a local woman. A former Niagara County man who has already served time in federal prison for cyberstalking a Western New York woman has been sentenced to 5 years in prison for the same crime. Daniel Richter, 47, of Middle Island, was sentenced by U.S. District Judge John L. Sinatra Jr. to 5 years in prison for cyberstalking. He had pled guilty to the charge in February. Investigators with the Niagara County Sheriff's Office and agents from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, took Daniel Richter, 45, into custody in an Amherst hotel room on March 27, 2024. It was the latest arrest in a series of stalking and cyberstalking convictions for Richter. Investigators said that Richter, in 2002, sent, quote, bizarre emails to and followed a victim, unquote, that he had become acquainted with at the University at Buffalo. Then, according to investigators, in 2007, Richter started sending postcards, again with, quote, strange messages, unquote, to the victim and leaving harassing voicemail messages on her work phone. In April 2008, Sheriff's Office investigators arrested Richter and charged him with fourth-degree stalking. Richter pleaded guilty to the charge and was sentenced to pay a fine. A Niagara County court judge also issued an order of protection that barred Richter from any contact with his victim. Investigators said a decade later, in 2018, Richter again began sending, quote, unwanted communications, unquote, via phone calls and emails to the same victim. Federal authorities arrested him, and in September 2020, he was convicted of interstate communication of threat to injure. Richter was sentenced to serve 2 years in federal prison for that conviction. In December 2023, federal agents said Richter was released from supervision after completing his sentence. Investigators said Richter immediately made attempts to contact his victim. Between December 25, 2023 and February 6, 2024, the victim said she received approximately 94 messages from Richter. Between February 6, 2024 and his arrest on March 27, 2024, Richter also sent more than 600 emails to the victim, which, according to investigators, included, quote, incoherent, rambling, and sexual and or threatening comments directed at the victim, unquote. Assistant U.S. Attorney Franz M. Wright, who is handling the federal case, said between December 24th, 2023 and March 27th, 2024, Richter sent hundreds of threatening and sexual emails to the victim's personal email address. He threatened not only the victim, but members of her family as well. For instance, over a 2-day period in February 2024, Wright said Richter sent more than 50 email messages to her personal email address, including one email mentioning her son by name. He also sent multiple emails and or Google voicemails to the woman on an almost daily basis, which became more threatening as time progressed, including a threat to kill her. In one of the emails, Richter reportedly wrote that he would travel to Western New York to see the victim in person on March 28, 2024. Richter was located by law enforcement agents at a hotel in Amherst after flying to Buffalo from Los Angeles. Investigators said in Richter's hotel room they found a photograph of the victim, the victim's contact information, a ski mask, and hair dye. A Clarence man is charged with killing his wife. A Clarence man is being held without bail after being arrested in the death of his wife early Thursday morning. Erie County District Attorney Michael J. Keene said Michael C. Brown, 55, of Clarence, was arraigned Thursday before Clarence Town Court Justice Joanna S. Hickley on one count of second-degree murder, which is a Class A1 felony. At about 2:55 a.m. Thursday, Erie County Sheriff's Office responded to a residence on the 9100 block of Sheridan Drive in Clarence after receiving a 911 call. The victim, a 50-year-old female, was pronounced deceased at the scene. Brown is accused of intentionally causing the death of his wife. He is scheduled to return on Monday for a felony hearing, and he was held without bail. If convicted of the charge, Brown faces a maximum sentence of 25 years to life in prison. Keene commended the Erie County Sheriff's Office Investigative Services Unit for their work in this ongoing investigation. The case is being prosecuted by Assistant District Attorney Frank A. Strano of the Homicide Bureau and Assistant Chief Rebecca A. Fioravanti of the Domestic Violence Bureau Special Victims Unit. A new exhibit unveiled at Niagara Falls State Park. Two new attractions have opened in the Ralph C. Wilson Jr. Welcome Center in Niagara Falls State Park. Voices of the Falls and Above the Roar allow visitors to experience Niagara Falls through diverse perspectives and cutting-edge technology. The $4.4 million Voices of the Falls is a permanent interactive exhibit that explores the past, present, and future of Niagara Falls in the voices of those that have been a part of its history. Featuring first-person perspectives, historical narratives, artifacts, hands-on interactive and video presentations, the nearly 5,000 square foot exhibit highlights the cultural, environmental, and personal connections that have formed the nation's oldest state park. Stories from the indigenous who first inhabited the land, to the Underground Railroad, to the tragedy of Love Canal, as well as the flora and fauna of the park, are included and will provide visitors with a richer view of the park beyond the waterfall. Additional elements of the project include outdoor models, a lenticular mural, and signage. The material covered throughout the exhibit is consistent with the principles of the New York State Parks Our Whole History initiative. Quote, I am especially grateful for our partnership with the Seneca Nation, Tuscarora Nation, and Underground Railroad collaborators whose contributions helped bring these stories to life, unquote, said State Park Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation Commissioner Kathy Moser. By sharing a more complete and inclusive history, these exhibits ensure that visitors gain a deeper understanding of the people, cultures, and events that shaped New York and our nation. Voices of the Falls was designed by Haley Sharp, designs of the UK and Toronto, and fabricated by Buffalo's Hadley Exhibits. Above the Roar is a fully immersive, multi-sensory virtual reality experience that takes participants on a thrilling journey around the most powerful waterfall in North America. Through exclusive aerial footage, motion-enhanced seating, and immersive sounds, participants will soar along the U.S. side of the Niagara River just above the rapids and then over the American Bridal Veil and Horseshoe Falls before gliding through the gorge and plunging into the depths below. There, under the water, they will encounter 7 species of fish that are native to the river before returning to the brink of the American Falls and ending back inside the Welcome Center. Above the Roar offers a completely new way for people to experience Niagara Falls as a part of their visit to the park, said Derek Zwicky, Chief Operating Officer of Delaware North Parks and Resorts. We are proud of our partnership with New York State Parks and thrilled that Delaware North could bring this attraction to life as another way for visitors from around the globe to experience Niagara Falls State Park. Delaware North worked with MDSX, an award-winning experiential design and media production firm. Working with MDSX, we used cutting-edge virtual reality content to create a perspective that has never been accessible to the public. A cinematic, awe-inspiring journey that is emotional as it is exhilarating. Every moment is designed to bring guests closer to the scale, power, and beauty of Niagara Falls in a way that feels immediate and unforgettable, Zwicky said. These installations complete the 28,000 square foot visitor center that was opened by Governor Kathy Hochul in December of 2023. The Welcome Center features glass walls and a low roof to maximize views and connections to the falls. It includes new ticketing and information desks, new concession spaces, restrooms, and associated support spaces. A rooftop PV array, specially patterned glass to prevent bird impacts, green roof elements, and a separate restroom building. Enhanced site amenities include new accessible paths, native plantings, and wayfinding elements. Resurgence to the Rescue beer can release party set for July the 26th. Animal lovers are invited to join Resurgence Brewing Company for the Resurgence to the Rescue 2026 can release party on July the 26th, benefiting two Western New York rescue organizations, Nickel City Canine Rescue and Akron Rescue Cats. The event celebrates the winners of the annual Buffalo Top Dog and Coolest Cat contest, which raises funds and awareness for local rescue efforts while highlighting some of Western New York's most beloved pets. This year, the winner, Sven, was crowned Buffalo's top dog, and Roomba named Buffalo's coolest cat. They will be featured on special limited edition Resurgence cans unveiled during the event. Guests attending the can release party can enjoy food and beverages, basket raffles, local vendors, adoptable dogs and cats from participating rescue organizations. Opportunities to meet fellow animal lovers and learn more about local rescue organizations. Proceeds from Resurgence to the Rescue support the life-saving work of Nickel City Canine Rescue and Akron Rescue Cats, helping both organizations continue their efforts to rescue, care for, and find loving homes for animals throughout Western New York. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Lockport Union-Sun Journal on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Scotland fans have descended on Boston, and bars are struggling to keep up. Ever since Scotland's fans learned they'd be Ever since Scottish fans learned they'd begin the country's 9th World Cup appearance in Boston, plans were being made for a party. I knew there was going to be a tsunami of Tartan Army Scottish fans, said Jason Waddleton, a Scotland native and owner of The Haven, a Scottish restaurant and bar in Boston's Jamaica Plain neighborhood, since 2010. He was right. First, Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey agreed to temporarily extend bar and restaurant hours during the World Cup. Next came thousands of Scots. One estimate is as high as 50,000 descending on the Boston area, including nearby Providence, Rhode Island, which has become a home base for many of them over the past few weeks. Then it was the Tartan Army marching through Boston streets following the country's opening win over Haiti last week, taking over the city's famed Fenway Park alongside Red Sox Nation after the team dubbed it Scottish Heritage Celebration Night, and the taps have been running non-stop. World Cup fans in Boston, especially the Scots, have put a serious strain on the beer supply in a city that is accustomed to big drinking holidays in St. Patrick's Day and the 4th of July. The Haven, which has long served Scotland's top-selling beer, Tennent's Lager, has gone from 4 kegs a week to ordering 50 just for this week. Other bars have sold out of Tennent's and have tripled their orders to make sure it doesn't happen again. Sam Adams said its Boston taproom ran out of their famed Sam Adams Boston Lager last weekend after Scottish fans descended on the city. We've basically blown through our own allocation. We still have it and we'll get more on Monday, unquote, Waddleton said. The celebratory atmosphere intensified Friday as Scotland prepared to play its second World Cup match of the tournament outside of Boston. They know how to party, how to make friends, and influence people, Waddleton said of the Scots. One of the most sought-after beverages in Boston pubs over the last week is Tennent's Lager. Once only available at the Haven before the tournament started, Tennent's made deals and distributed kegs of its product to 80 bars in Boston and surrounding areas. Samantha Crawford, the international marketing manager for Tennent's, said they started preparing to distribute their product to the United States as soon as Scotland qualified for the World Cup in November. They've also sent supplies to Miami bars ahead of Scotland's match against Brazil next week. It's been a long time in the making. The next day we got to work, she said, of the preparations to make sure the beer is stocked in the U.S. She said the beer is ingrained with sports culture in Scotland. Mivan Spencer, owner of Cafe Dello Sport in Boston's North End, said he is used to handling large crowds for major soccer tournaments, but has been surprised by the amount of business he's seen during the World Cup. After the first weekend of matches, I definitely ran out of almost everything, Spencer said. Luckily, I have a couple of other restaurants, and I borrowed products from them to get me through. The first thing he sold out of was Tennent's, before quickly selling out of Peroni. Spencer said he's since tripled his usual alcohol order for this week, saying, "It's so I don't run out of a single thing." Over at High Street Place, a food hall in downtown Boston, beverage supplies that were expected to last a week were consumed in 4 days, said Laura Johnson, a senior marketplace manager at the venue. Fortunately, we have great partners, and our distributors were able to pivot quickly and increase subsequent orders to keep pace with the demands seamlessly. Sam Adams said its Boston taproom ran out of their famed Samuel Adams Boston Lager last weekend. From Thursday to Sunday, the Boston-based brewer said the Tartan Army drank 4 times as much Boston Lager as the establishment typically sells during a 4-day holiday stretch like the 4th of July. To date, Sam Adams has sold more than 4,000 pints of Boston Lager, resulting in about 90 empty kegs, said Devon Sage, a Sam Adams spokesperson. We've had to schedule 4 emergency deliveries to the tap room, Sage wrote in an email. But politicians in Massachusetts have also joined in on the soccer craze. Boston Mayor Michelle Wu has been a fixture at Boston's fan festivals and made appearances at several watch parties. Governor Healy declared June 18th World Cup Fans Appreciation Day and was spotted at the Haven behind the bar pouring drinks. The Unsung Stories of Vietnam Women Veterans is a part of the Keenan exhibit. This contains a picture of a nurse standing next to a sign that says, "Welcome to the finest hospital in Vietnam, the EVAC Hospital. The reason for our exhibit has just arrived. You are patient." The article reads, former wartime nurse Joan Fury will be a keynote speaker at a July the 25th event. The I Was There event runs from July the 5th through September the 16th. It features unknown stories of Vietnam. When Americans think of the Vietnam War, they often picture soldiers in the jungle or anti-war protests at home. What many don't realize is that more than 265,000 American women served during the Vietnam era, including nearly 11,000 stationed in Vietnam itself. Their remarkable stories will be highlighted in I Was There, Unknown Stories of the Vietnam War, an immersive exhibit opening July the 5th at the Keenan Center Gallery. The exhibit's Women in Vietnam room explores the experience of the nurses, journalists, Red Cross workers, military personnel, and civilian volunteers who served alongside America's fighting forces. Through photographs, artifacts, personal accounts, and multimedia displays, visitors will discover how these women cared for the wounded, witnessed history firsthand, and transformed their wartime experiences into lifelong advocacy. Among the women featured in Vietnam, nurse veteran Joan Fury, BSN, MSN, who will serve as the keynote speaker for a special Nurses Roundtable from 1 to 3 p.m. on July the 25th at the Keenan Taylor Theater. Fury volunteered for the Army Nurse Corps in 1968 and served at the 71st Evacuation Hospital in Pleiku from 1969 to 1970. As a young lieutenant, she worked long hours caring for the critically wounded soldiers arriving by helicopter from combat zones. For her service, she was awarded the Bronze Star. The Vietnam War's revolutionary medevac system dramatically increased survival rates by transporting wounded soldiers to treatment facilities within minutes of injury. While countless lives were saved, the system also exposed nurses to a relentless stream of devastating battlefield casualties. Working 12-hour shifts under difficult conditions, Vietnam nurses faced medical and emotional challenges unlike those experienced in previous wars. Like many veterans, Fury returned home carrying invisible wounds. Rather than allowing those experiences to define her, she devoted her career to helping others heal. Joining the Department of Veterans Affairs in 1978, she became a pioneer in the emerging field of post-traumatic stress disorder treatment and helped establish one of the nation's first VA treatment programs for women veterans suffering from PTSD. Her advocacy extended beyond health care. Fury later served as director of the Department of Veterans Affairs Center for Women Veterans. She testified before Congress on issues affecting women's veterans, and along with fellow veteran nurse Linda Van Deventer, co-edited, quote, Visions of War, Dreams of Peace, unquote, a groundbreaking collection of poetry written by Vietnam nurse veterans. According to co-curator Mary Brennan Taylor, we are excited and deeply honored to have 3 evacuation hospital combat nurses join keynote speaker Fury for this historic roundtable. Edie Meeks served in the 3rd Field Hospital in Saigon and the 71st Evacuation Hospital in Pleiku. Milo Soren served in the 12th Evacuation Hospital in Chu Chi and the 67th Evacuation Hospital in Quy Nhon, and Margaret Milkononis served in the 3rd Surgical Hospital in Binh Thuy. All are traveling to Lockport from around the country at the invitation of Joan Fury to share their experiences as evacuation hospital combat nurse. As part of the roundtable, Richard Dillon will share his experiences as a severely wounded helicopter pilot who owes his life to the care of the evacuation hospital nurses who cared for him. These women cared for the dying, the wounded, witnessed extraordinary courage, and then returned home to build lives of service and advocacy, said exhibit co-curator Ellen Martin. Their contributions are as an essential part of the Vietnam story and deserve to be remembered. I was there. Unknown Stories of the Vietnam War opens July 5th and runs through September 20th at the Keenan Center Gallery. Admission is free. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Lockport Union-Sun and Journal on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. A problem tree that fell on a car raises questions about the city's accountability. The owner of a tree that fell on a parked car on Sunday said he had reported the tree as dangerous and also contacted city officials each of the past 5 years with no response. The last standing section of Scott Berger's 80-foot maple tree at 321 Pine Street was removed by city workers on Wednesday. The response to the fallen tree began Sunday night when half of the vine-covered tree fell during the wind and rain and hit the 2020 GMC Acadia parked in the neighbor's driveway. Mark Whitehead said his daughter's vehicle is likely a total loss after its windshield was smashed, roof dented, and door was crushed. Whitehead said the tree was lifted off the car on Sunday, with sections cut and trucked away each day after. He said he expects that the insurance company will pursue payment from the city. Walking across his front porch, Whitehead said, "My grandkids like it when it rains. They normally would have wanted to be out there, but thank God they weren't." Berger, the tree's owner, said when he bought his house in 2020, he was told by neighbors that the tree had been requested for removal by previous owners. When he followed up with the city himself, Berger said the clerk found the original entry on the tree removal list dating back to 2008. Berger said the clerk told him there were 800 trees on the list that were requested for trimming or removal. Berger said the clerk told him there were 800 trees on the list that were requested for trimming or removal and had yet to be addressed. That's when Berger said he started making calls to the clerk, Public Works Department, and Mayor's office and sending emails. "You can't talk to anybody," Berger said. The reaction is not uncommon, as complaint letters about trees are reviewed at common council meetings, or residents come to the microphone to tell aldermen how long they have waited for help. When asked if Whitehead knew that the tree had been waiting for work since 2008, he said, "It does piss me off that it's been 18 years. He said a major limb had fallen from the same tree several years ago, cutting off his electricity. Whitehead said a tree in his own front yard also has been dead and has dangerous branches, and that he contacted the city about them. Orville Lewis, who lives across the street at 318 Pine Street, said there are also hazardous branches on the street next to his home. The city should be liable if they complained about the tree needing to come down and it wasn't done," said Anita Mullane, former 2nd Ward alderman, who chaired the tree committee. "The city's insurance should be covering that tab. I was told that one of the people in that department wouldn't cut them down unless they were totally dead." Mullane said major damage from fallen trees happens more frequently than you know. But With unaddressed trees dating back more than a decade, she said, the bigger issue is a long-time public works staffing shortage. Referring to when a state audit found the city had depleted its funds, Mullane said, they made all those cuts with the deficit financing, and McCaffrey did, and they never really filled them. There were massive cuts to the street departments. The problem of staffing and cost management continues as a financial report provided to aldermen on Wednesday showed that several sections of the Public Works Department, notably forestry, have already exceeded their annual overtime budgets. Marcus Weish, 2nd Ward Alderman, requested that the department heads provide explanations at an upcoming meeting. Meanwhile, the Whitehead family is sorting out their vehicle situation. My daughter is heartbroken. It was the best car she ever had. New York State ranks 5th for having the worst pothole problem risks in the United States, with a total of 24.3% of the state's major roads rated as being in poor condition based on an analysis of the Federal Highway Administration data. Rhode Island, Massachusetts, California, and Hawaii are the only states ahead of New York when it comes to poor road services. While poor road conditions do not necessarily mean every driver will hit a pothole, it is a definite warning sign for a repair risk. A hard strike on a pothole can damage tires, bend wheels, knock out alignments, or put extra strain on suspension parts. AAA has also projected that pothole damage may cost United States drivers billions of dollars a year. Given the amount of travel that occurs on New York State highways, New Yorkers are especially at risk, even just traveling for a weekend to the Hudson Valley, Long Island, or the Adirondacks. The marina use raises questions on Erie Canal's draw for the modern boater. Even during the 200th anniversary celebration of the Erie Canal, demand for boat slips at Wide Waters Marina remains sparse. City Treasurer Sue Mahaney said of the nearly 40 boat slips available, only 5 were rented during the anniversary year in 2025, bringing in $1,870.50 in 2024, 7 slips were rented. When asked what boaters are looking for, Rob Smith, sales manager at Smith Boys Boat Dealership in Tonawanda, didn't think it was the Erie Canal. Nobody wants to ride up and down the canal, said Smith. It's boring. 5 miles per hour? You think your 10-year-old wants to idle in your boat up and down the canal? They want boat riding and tubing. He said, of being towed behind the life. They want bow riding and tubing, he said, of being towed behind the boat for a thrill ride. Describing canal cruising, Smith said, you can look at the leaves turn color for a day in autumn. Craig said the city received feedback that Wide Waters marina fees were high for the area, and fees were adjusted for this year. Craig said that would hopefully make a difference in utilization. We're kind of in a little bit of a recession, Craig said, and high fuel costs may be a deterrent to boaters. Craig Fogel, the 4th Ward Alderman, also said that Lockport had become known for high fuel costs. Smith didn't seem to think that costs were the key factor. While he described recent boat sales as quiet, Smith said it was mostly due to cold and rainy weather. It's more weather than anything else, he said. You can say gas prices, but that only affects the new boater who doesn't know what they're going to spend. Smith said a 20% increase in any boater's spending range isn't a significant deterrent. An extra $200 isn't going to kill them, said Smith. Supervisor John Syracuse closely watches boating trends and venues at the town of Newfane Marina. I think there's a wider variety of opportunities that open up with a large body of water, he said. You look at sport fishing, it's second to none here. With the canal, you can sail. I don't think you can jet ski in the canal, but I've heard boaters say if you use the canal system, you can go all the way to Florida. They both have wonderful opportunities. Syracuse said he's seen fewer of the 16 to 18-foot boats owned by the locals docked at Newfane's marina. He said now residents mostly stay for just the day, but overnight docking revenue adds up with a $12,500 profit in May. The marina brought in $2,100 in daily launches last month, Syracuse said, and made $4,100 in fish cleaning fees at $2 per fish. He said fishing events were an important driver for the marina business. Last August, a canal-side performance by the Flotsam River Circus brought its troupe of musicians, circus performers, and puppeteers to perform on their barge-mounted theater tied up to Goley Park adjacent to Widewaters Marina. The event attracted an audience of about 1,000 people, and that really opened our eyes, he said. A training ground. Mount St. Mary's Hospital has new SIM lab for EMS training. Mount St. Mary's Hospital is positioning itself to serve as a site for emergency services training. 4 rooms in the Lewiston Hospital's former operating room area were converted into a sim lab for training new EMS workers. It is the only hospital-based simulation option for such workers in the area. 3 rooms have been set up so far. 1 for an outdoor park setting, 1 for a home setting with a dinner table and couch, and 1 for practicing the use of equipment to treat stem blood flow and getting among one is for practicing the use of a new equipment to treat stem blood flow and getting among other things, and getting patients oxygen among. And the third room is for practicing the use of equipment to treat stem blood flow and getting patients oxygen, among other things. The 4th room, yet to be finished, is meant for simulating high sensory environments so EMS workers do not get distracted. Each room has the equipment they would use in real-life situations, with EMS system manager Emily James saying the possibilities for what to train for are endless. Other places have simulation labs, bits for nurses and physicians only, James said. This is the only place where they will get to train from dispatch through every piece of the call, all the way to the hospital handoff. From the Associated Press, Trump's Iran deal is greeted with skepticism and scrutiny. In Washington, Republicans on Capitol Hill said Monday they need more information about the agreement between the United States and Iran announced by President Donald Trump, and some are expressing skepticism as they ask the White House for details. The agreement announced Sunday to end the war in Iran, set for a ceremonial signing Friday in Geneva, is centered around reopening the Strait of Hormuz and lifting the United States naval blockade in the region, along with financial incentives for Iran if it meets certain benchmarks. But Senate Republicans and Democrats who returned to Washington on Monday said there were still many unanswered questions about the deal, and they need thorough briefings before it is finalized. The state budget is $9 billion more than cited. New York is planning to spend $277 billion to fund government operations for the next year, which is $9 billion more than officials said was included in the state budget passed last month. This past Wednesday, the governor's executive division of the budget released the financial plan for the fiscal year 2027 state budget. The top line, all funds spending total, is going to be $277 billion. But when the governor, Kathy Hochul, announced the contours of a budget deal about 3 weeks before the legislation was passed, and when the assembly started touting the details of the deal, officials said the total spending package was $268.1 billion. Some estimates put it closer to $269 billion. But according to Tim Ruffin, a spokesperson with the budget division, said the extra $9 billion is largely coming from federal funding, and that was made available after the state budget passed. The updated all funds number is more accurate, reflecting that includes additional federal funding, a majority of which recently became eligible to spend, he said. State operating funds, which is primarily supported by state taxpayers' dollars, remains on par with what was published previously. The state operating fund section of the budget for 2027 is set to be $174.1 billion. With all spending and revenue sources now accounted for, New York's budget for this current fiscal year will be $18.1 billion, or 7% more than last year's budget. In a statement, Assembly Minority Leader Edward P. Raw, a Republican from Garden City, said the fact that the original spending total was wrong was a sign of the dysfunction in Albany. It is a sobering reminder of the reckless, irresponsible approach Albany takes when developing its annual spending plan, he said. The entire 2026 budget process was an exercise in dysfunction and incompetence. Nearly 2 months late, overloaded with policy and non-fiscal items passed and signed without seeing the exact dollar amount being committed. It's unacceptable, and it's why I have sponsored legislation to require a full financial plan be provided before budget bills are advanced. Good government groups are also disappointed by the sudden price hike. Andrew Ryan, president of the Citizens Budget Commission, a non-governmental organization that advocates for fiscal responsibility, said the budget this year represents a missed opportunity to promote a stable financial future. It kept its rainy day reserves virtually flat, even amid mixed economic currents, Rain said of the budget. It layered billions of dollars of spending on top of a base it already could not sustain. Rain noted that this financial plan has come only 2 weeks after the budget was enacted, rather than the usual month-long wait between the completion of the budget and the plan's publication. But, he said, that was only a marginal improvement to the transparency. It still fails the test of providing New Yorkers a clear picture of how their money is being spent when the decisions are being made. We continue to urge the governor to release basic fiscal plan tables alongside the enacted budget, both because the people deserve them and because they will help lawmakers make smart, future-looking decisions. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Lockport Union-Sun Journal on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. An East Aurora woman takes her final steps in the falls to honor the vets. Linda Transky took her first steps in support of Buffalo Niagara Honor Flight 4 years ago. The East Aurora residents started walking to raise awareness and funds for the organization after its members helped her grandfather, a World War II veteran and double Purple Heart recipient, improve the way he dealt with his lingering feelings about the impact his years of service had on him. He went on the trip and he came back willing to have some therapy at the VA and take part in some therapy, Transky said. It really changed his life. After that flight, I thought if it could do that for my grandfather, maybe it could help other veterans realize they are not alone. Buffalo Niagara Honor Flight is the local chapter of a national all-volunteer nonprofit organization that provides veterans of World War II and the Korean and Vietnam Wars with all-expense-paid trips to Washington, D.C., where they can view monuments erected in their honor. Transky has honored her grandfather and the work of the organization each of the past 4 years while raising money as a part of an honor flight benefit walk. She completed her most recent journey, 138-mile trek that started on Sunday in Bradford, Pennsylvania, by taking her final steps in the benefit at Niagara Falls Veterans Memorial Park in Hyde Park. This year's walk had added importance as it happened the same year the local Honor Flight chapter celebrated its 10th year of service in a year when the United States is gearing up to celebrate its 250th anniversary. Transky said she managed to complete this year's benefit walk at a pace of between 25 and 30 miles per day, stopping along the way to talk with veterans and others who turned out to greet her. Transky said she was also able to connect with a lot of school kids, an experience she described as her favorite part of the journey. For a lighter side, the origin of the Happy Meal. In the 1970s, Yolanda Fernandez de Cafino, the wife of the man who owned the first McDonald's restaurant in Guatemala, noticed that kids struggled with the menu at her husband's restaurant. They might order a Big Mac, not realizing how massive the sandwich really was. In 1977, she came up with what she called Ronald's Menu. It was basically a kid's menu. Meals would include a toy. Meanwhile, Bob Bernstein, a St. Louis-based advertising man, had noticed the way his son behaved every morning at breakfast. He was eager to open a new box of cereal, to get the small toy inside, and would then spend his meal reading the back of the box, even though he had read it the day before. Yolanda pitched her idea for a kids' menu at McDonald's marketing conference in Chicago. Bernstein was brought to find a way to sell the menu. He suggested a meal box that would include cartoons, puzzles, riddles, and of course, a small toy. Bernstein trademarked the Happy Meal name, but later transferred it to McDonald's for $1. McDonald's test marketed the Happy Meal in Kansas City, Phoenix, and Denver, and then rolled out the Happy Meal nationwide on June 15, 1979. Each box had a circus wagon theme and came with a hamburger or cheeseburger, fries, cookies, a soft drink, and a special prize, all for $1.15. McDonald's has continued to experiment with its Happy Meal offerings. In 2001, it launched the Mighty Kids Meal with larger portion sizes geared towards tweens. In 2004, McDonald's offered Active Fit Happy Meals for adults that included a bottle of water, a salad, and a step-o-meter. Since then, it's tried out other adult-themed ideas. And the first promotional tie-in Happy Meal was connected to movies and TV shows. One of the ideas that have helped Happy Meals remain popular over the years are the numerous promotional themes tied to the various movies and TV shows. For example, the small Beanie Baby stuffed animals, McDonald called them Teeny Beanies, offered between 1997 and 2000, were enormously popular and resulted in long lines and even fights between angry parents at restaurants. Teeny Beanies sold for huge amounts on online auction sites like eBay. But the very first Happy Meal tie-in, however, took place in December 1979, when McDonald's teamed up with Paramount Pictures for a set of Happy Meals themed around Star Trek, the motion picture. The 5 Star Trek meals boxes were illustrated with artwork from the film and Star Trek themed jokes, and included iron-on Star Trek decals and a themed toy, Star Trek ships, a communicator, and so on. To promote the Trek-themed Happy Meals, McDonald's spent $20 million on a TV ad campaign featuring a Klingon urging parents to bring their kids to McDonald's. In other firsts, Ronald McDonald was the creation of Willard Scott, who had played Bozo the Clown on Washington, D.C.'s TV station WRC in the 1950s and early 60s. Since Scott had experience as a clown, a D.C. area advertising agency hired him in 1963 to help create and play Ronald in 3 TV commercials. There is a picture of him at the right wearing a McDonald's cup on his nose. Scott went on to spend 16 more years as the weatherman for NBC's Today Show. Also, the Play Place debuted in 1971 at a McDonald's restaurant in Chula Vista, California, between San Diego and the Mexican border. The outdoor playground proved to be very popular with children, so McDonald's set up a play place at the Illinois State Fair to test the durability of its playground equipment. The equipment held up, so the idea was rolled out to other franchises in 1972. In 1991, McDonald's created a chain of entertainment centers based on the Play Place concept. It called the centers Leaps and Bounds, but the idea was not successful, so McDonald's merged them into Discovery Zone and Chuck E. Cheese franchises. Most Play Places were shut down during the pandemic. Many McDonald's restaurants have now removed them. Residents are sounding off on the use of flock cameras. Public safety officials provide an overview of the roadside devices. Nearly 40 residents gathered at Wednesday's Common Council meeting with concerns about the flock safety license plate reading cameras in Niagara County. To answer rising public concerns, City Police Chief Abbott, Sheriff Michael Felicetti, and Carl Bach, a representative from Flock Safety, began the meeting by providing an overview of the purpose and practices for using the roadside mounted cameras. Community members took the microphone to express concerns about the security of the Flock Safety data system, the data's potentially expanded use, and the company's association with Plantair Technology, a software company founded by Peter Thiel. Felicetti told those present that through a grant of Homeland Security, 43 flock safety cameras have been installed on roadsides in the county. Felicetti said the cameras only scan license plates and do not capture images of the overall car or the people inside. He described situations in which a series of cameras has helped law enforcement intercept stolen cars and locate drivers with dementia. Felicetti said the flock system alerts law enforcement to the location of a vehicle, but officers must use the e-justice database to find out the name and contact information for the person associated with the vehicle. Bach said Flock safety cameras on Amazon GovCloud is stored for 30 days and then deletes it. Bach said the law enforcement agency is the owner of the data collected in its jurisdiction. The Buffalo Zoo welcomes a black and white ruffed lemur family. 5 black and white ruffed lemurs have come to the Buffalo Zoo from the Roosevelt Park Zoo in Minot, North Dakota on a species survival plan recommendation from the Association of Zoos and Aquariums. The lemurs, which consist of a father and 4 of his offspring, are now on exhibit regularly in the Vanishing Animals South area alongside the zoo's pair of radiated tortoises. The zoo's new lemur family is headed by Dad Huey, who is 20 years old, who was born on April 7th, 2006. He has produced 12 offspring in his life, including the 4 who will reside along with him in the Buffalo Zoo. Black and white ruffed lemurs are considered critically endangered in the wild by the International Union for Conservation of Nature. Native only to Madagascar, their population has been reduced by an estimated 80% over the past 3 decades. Logging, slash and burn agriculture, and development all have played a role in their decline. And their large size, as well as diurnal activities, make them an easier target for illegal hunting. Protecting the habitats is critical to ensure the survival of not just black and white ruffed lemurs, but all lemurs. It is estimated that 95% of lemur species are endangered, with a third considered critically endangered. Lisa Smith, the Buffalo Zoo president and CEO, said the lemurs will serve as an integral educational ambassador as we work to protect this critically endangered species. Heavy rains across most of the eastern Niagara County in the last few days has created flash flooding for some locations after a week of high heat and dryness. Note this comes from the June 16th Niagara Gazette Union-Sun Journal. Storm sewers overflowed on Market Street on Sunday afternoon as the area received 1.4 inches of rain, according to the Raindrop website. Data taken on Sunday shows the water level at 247.31 feet in Lake Ontario, still under the historic high reached this week in 2019. Daily Lake Ontario water levels are the mean of measurement taken at Oswego and Rochester and Port Weller, Kingston, Toronto, and Cobourg in Ontario. In its weekly bulletin, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers said all Great Lakes are well below record highs, June water levels by 18 to 35 inches. I believe we're looking for it to crest here at the end of the month. It's at the highest it's been in a few years. You have been listening to a reading of articles and features from current issues of the Lockport Union-Sun Journal. We read from the Lockport Union-Sun Journal every Saturday at 5 p.m. Your reader has been Lenny Mann. Thanks for listening.
Coming up next in the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, we have the Jamestown Post-Journal. At 7 o'clock, we got the Niagara Falls Review, and at 8 o'clock, we have the Off-Duty from the Wall Street Journal. Stay with us for these readings and more. You're listening to the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Radio readers broadcast daily readings 24 hours a day of newspapers, magazines, and books to area people who are blind or have a print disability who are provided reading radios. A broadcast signal is provided at no charge by WNED. Radio reading broadcasts throughout the city of Buffalo, western New York, and southern Ontario's Niagara Peninsula. For more information on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, call us at 716-821-5555. following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability,